Good morning. Thank you all for coming to this ambassador session. It is a very busy couple of days at the conference, and I just want to welcome you all for being here while we spend the next little bit of time just talking and introducing the ambassadors and the program. So, my name is Marla Chapleau. I am one of the ambassadors, and my first conference that Ron and I have attended was 25 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And it is just amazing that, we do keep coming back, and we keep coming back because of the wonderful, warm embrace that we feel from families, from the clinicians, the researchers, and we don't come back because we think there's a cure imminent on the horizon. Do we hope and wish? Absolutely. But we come back for the connections, to reacquaint ourselves with old ones and to make new ones. So, without further ado, let's get on with the session. So the vision behind the Ambassador program is essentially doing what we have been doing over the last 2.5 decades. We have been involved, as I said, for 25 years, and over that 25 years, you begin to get a sense of you get a lot of resources under your own belt. And we would get contacted by the ULF office to say, oh, I have somebody who needs some help, can you reach out to them? And we were doing that all along. So this kind of puts it into a big formal program, which I think is fabulous. The resources really extend anywhere from, I need a neurologist that knows leukodystrophy. I need a physiotherapist that understands neurodegenerative diseases. And it could be that I don't know where to go in my next steps now that my child is entering the school system or aging out of the youth in going into adulthood. I mean, the list goes on and the journey continues. So, we're helping people guide them. We are not taking place of medical care. We're not giving medical advice. We're not giving legal advice. We are just there to help provide the resources and oftentimes just being a listening ear to have everybody know that they are not alone. And I love that motto of the ULF because that's exactly what kept my husband Ron and I and my kids from attending. We keep attending year after year. These are the regions that our ambassadors come from, and I'm going to have each of them give a little introduction and how they've been affiliated with the United Leukodystrophy Foundation. We're going to start with Region 1 on the far end there.
Hello, my name is JoAnn Locy, and my husband Roger and I have been on this path now for 20 years. This is my 20th anniversary of my diagnosis, and I was referred by my local neurologist to a Strong Hospital in Rochester, New York, where I received my diagnosis, and then they moved us on down to Johns Hopkins. And from Johns Hopkins, they suggested that we come and attend one of the conferences for the ULF. And as Marla said, it's just been rolling from there, making friends, making connections, seeing the right doctors, and it's just been a fantastic trip. It's, we have made most of the last 20 years conferences, and we continue to come back.
Thank you. And we have LuAnn who will introduce herself.
Hi, I'm LuAnn Swartzlander, and I 15 years ago, I started coming to the ULF conference when my son was diagnosed with ALD. Surprise. At that time, I began to learn all the resources that were available and the education I could get through the ULF. Not to mention, of course, the community of helping out. And so that's been priceless in my family's journey ever since. And I'm from Ohio, OH, but I also have connections in Wisconsin, Illinois, Chicago, down south in Illinois, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, all over. So it's fun to meet you all from all over the place here.
Thank you.
You have another Ohio family, too. I-O, just for the OH there. My name's Margaret. My husband, John, is in the AMN session, but I'm sure you'll meet him sometime within the couple days here, rolling around introducing himself. John and I have been married for 42 years, and we have adult children right now. We're proud grandparents of 5 grandchildren. Our journey with the United Leukodystrophy Foundation actually began back in 1989 when John was diagnosed with adrenal myeloneuropathy, AMN. At that time, we felt completely alone. We navigated a rare disease we knew nothing about. How everything changed in 1990 when we found the ULF. The foundation became our lifeline. We found information, connection, and a community of people who understood exactly what we were facing. That message, "You're not alone," was true then, just as it is true today. We became ambassadors because we wanted to give back. We want other families to know from the very beginning that there's hope, there's help, and there's a whole community ready to walk with them. The ULF has been a part of our story for over 30 years now. We are honored to help carry its mission forward. Our daughter is a carrier of AMN, and our youngest grandchild was identified via newborn screening in Ohio. It is a reminder every day of why we are so passionate about raising awareness and providing support for others affected by leukodystrophies.
Thank you.
Hi, Michele, Levoir, Sloan. I'm in Region 2 as well, recently added to the program. And I come with a history of 10 years of advocacy support for HABC TUB4 gene mutation, because my daughter, who's here today, lives with that. And we formed, my husband and I, a nonprofit to advocate and support families. And we've been doing this for 10 years now. And 86 patients were identified at the time. Now we're close to over 200. And I happened to come across the ULF. I met Bob at one of the conferences at some point in time. And then just through social media connections, I had the pleasure of meeting Misty, who you'll hear from shortly. And she, on several occasions, connected one of our HABC families in that region to not only support leukodystrophy, but also to provide extraordinary connections to support in many, many ways beyond just living with a leukodystrophy. And there are many, many challenges that we all face, some more so than others. So Misty is my first connection in many ways with the Ambassador Program, and she has been phenomenal, and I hope to follow in her footsteps.
Thank you, I appreciate that. My name is Misty Powers. I serve as the Midwest Leukodystrophy Ambassador, but more importantly, I'm a parent who's walked the road that you're all on now. We were first introduced to the Leukodystrophy Foundation, I would say, in 2010, and then we came to our first conference in 2017. As I have a son, Parker Powers, that is about to be 18, and he has HLD 19.
Well, good morning. I'm Jamie Barlow. I'm from Star, Idaho. I recently relocated there. I used to be Southern California. My son Bradley passed away July 2017 at the age of 21. Bradley was diagnosed with adrenal leukodystrophy in 1999 at the age of 3. I started coming to the ULF in the year 2000. And since I've been at the ULF, just like everybody else says, I'm not alone. Since then, I've educated
advocated and learned and supported families with leukodystrophies. So my world has grown immensely. My family has grown. Every year I get more members of my family, and I love it. So thanks for coming back and help supporting me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning. I'm Ron Chapleau, Marla's husband. We're the foreigners here. We're from north of the 49th, or at least we're foreigners for a few more months, I think. North of the 49th parallel. I've got a son, Aiden, 27, affected with MLC, one of the more rare forms of leukodystrophies, and then a daughter, Alexander, who's 28, and a younger son, Liam, 24, who are both, maybe carriers, maybe not. That'll be their decision to find out at some point, but are definitely impacted by this. Our introduction to the ULF was probably a lot like yours. A few nebulous symptoms that were unexplained at a very young age that necessitated an MRI that introduced us to a word we'd never heard of, leukodystrophy. And while at that time they didn't know his particular type, it hadn't been discovered, they gave us a couple of different types, and the ramifications for all were the same. He'd likely live to the age of 7, maybe 8, and his life would be a series of hardships till that point in time. And it was good. We left that office broken and despondent and beyond, we thought beyond healing and repair. It took us a few weeks, but we sort of got our feet under us and typed in, back then it probably would have been Internet Explorer, the word leukodystrophy, and the United Leukodystrophy Foundation's name came up. And we made plans to attend the first conference, and that was truly transformative for us. It was there that their second opinion program eventually diagnosed our son with a much milder course, hence he's 27. But probably way more important than that diagnosis were the connections that we met. We met the clinicians, researchers, individuals like yourselves and the families. And we learned, once again, that we were not alone. We learned knowledge, we learned fellowship. And we learned that this diagnosis was not going to define our life, that it was possible for our son and our family by extension to have a good and balanced life.
Thank you. So before we go further, you can tell that all of us have up here are ambassadors with lived experiences. So through various trials and tribulations, I would like everybody here to just give them all a round of applause for having the courage to come up here. Thank you. So last year at the conference, we launched our ambassador program. So this slide really kind of shows how we've been active and how we have served families. And as the slide shows, 82 families, patients served. And most of it was not just, one phone call, one interaction. Some were many, many interactions, but on the whole, 5 to 7 interactions to help somebody get on the right path with a resource. The most common, resources were, trying to find neurologists, trying to find specific help. But a lot of it as well was emotional support, because just knowing that people understand, because leukodystrophy is a word you've never heard of likely before this. Financial support, how are you going to fund that next car payment? How are you going to look at getting an accessible vehicle if you need one? How are you going to modify your home? So a lot of financial requests. And as Ron mentioned, referrals for second opinions. That's very important too. Grief support. We're all in it. It could be anticipatory grief. It could be grief because we did have a loss of a loved one. We actually have questions on sexual dysfunction that also needs to be addressed, as much as we don't like to talk about certain subjects. There's also, push for legal healthcare support. The list goes on and on. Newborn screening is becoming more and more prevalent. Our ambassador program hosts monthly caregiver support groups. and they are not on any specific topic. Anybody can register and join in, and I welcome you all to join in on one or more. They are fabulous sessions. We also, as an ambassador group, host webinars. Some of them have been very specific. Well, they are very specific. We've had, trying to think of the word here. We had adaptive toys and games, which has really helped our son, Aiden, get back into playing some video games. We have had family support, family planning for being a carrier, and I think that has been a very well-attended one. Now that you have leukodystrophy, what comes next? That was a very, very positive feedback one. Mental health over the holidays, and I think a lot of us struggle with various things going on in our lives, but it's important to remember that there's a positive spin that we need to take on everything as well. So we have been very active and continue to, we have different webinar topics that we'd like to continue in the upcoming months. Some of the topics we want to have are first aid for your family, things to know in the event something does go wrong. How about IEP learning, which I believe there's a session at the conference, so that is going to be hopefully well attended. And if anybody has any topics that they would love to see covered, please reach out. The various types of leukodystrophies that we do help are not limited to the types of leukodystrophies that we are all affiliated with on stage here. We are helping anybody that needs help, regardless of the type of leukodystrophy. And as you can see, some of them are undiagnosed at this point, and they are still looking for answers. Continuing on, these are the various states that our resources have been requested from. So all over, not all over, but a good chunk of the United States. And I want to point out that we're not just getting asked for resources in our North America, which is where our ambassadors are from. We're getting asked for resources globally. So you can see that the Ireland and Hungary, and I mean, you can read all those, Turkey, etc. So we're not going to deny them. We've actually sought how to find the help that they need in those countries as well. This is our ambassador pledge. We will be the support you need at the time you need it. We will lift you up and boost your spirits so you don't feel so alone. We will serve you through your journey, coming from a place of knowing and compassion. And I have a video I'm going to share, and if I don't know how to get that played from here. And this is a testimonial to our ambassador program.
The day I learned that my son had a rare brain disease, I felt like my world stopped. But an ambassador helped me find my fight. Hi, I'm Maisha, and I want to share something that changed everything after my son was diagnosed with TUBB4A leukodystrophy. When I first heard the word leukodystrophy, I was terrified, overwhelmed, full of emotion and questions that nobody seemed to have the answer. Initially, my son's doctors brushed off the genetic testing and told me to come back in a year. However, I knew something was up, so I kept pushing and found another neurologist who knew what his genetic testing meant. However, she couldn't properly explain leukodystrophy to me in the moment with all the emotions. And then I was introduced to a leukodystrophy ambassador, another parent who had walked this path before me. She didn't just send me links. She gave me real advice and listened. She explained to me what leukodystrophy was, a progressive, rare, life-altering disease, but that I wasn't crazy for looking for answers. She guided me towards real practical help, things like benefits for DHS, respite care, SSI benefits, and so much more. She gave me the tools I needed to take action and the emotional support to keep going when I just felt like everything was crumbling. But more than anything, she gave me hope. No one in my family could relate to the heartbreak of watching your child slowly lose their speech, their coordination, and their strength. She stood beside me. To any parent newly diagnosed, I know it feels like your world's just stopped. I know it feels like no one understands. But the ambassadors do. They help me light my path forward, and I promise they'll help you too.
Wow. And I believe Maisha's here in the audience too, so welcome. Thank you for that testimonial. I don't know how to follow up that, but anyways, I am now going to forward this on to Rob Goldstein-Mahan, who's going from IONIS, who's going to facilitate the rest.
Thank you, Marla. There we go. Yeah, it's hard to follow. But first, I would say, I want to say on behalf of everybody again, thank you to all of you as ambassadors. I want to recognize, as far as I know, you're not getting paid to do this work. You're volunteers, and I think this is just a tremendous representation about the importance of volunteers in the organizations like ULF. 400 to 500 interactions that we just heard about, all through volunteer hours, and I know I am in awe, and all of us at IONIS are in awe of what you provide and the awesome weight that you take on from others in their moment of need so that they can go forward. So thank you. We'll start with you, Roger. And this is a tough question, but if you can try to pinpoint what is the single greatest skill that helps you be successful when you're supporting somebody through the ambassador program?
I would say listening. And I base that on back when JoAnn and I first heard of her diagnosis of leukodystrophy, which we had never heard of, had no idea what it was, didn't know anybody that had it, didn't know of any doctors that treated it, and in addition to that, didn't know what path laid ahead of us. You know, we didn't know anything about the disease. We were fortunate that we were directed to Johns Hopkins, who then told us a lot of information, obviously. They had a lot of information for us. But they sent us to DeKalb, Illinois, or recommended that we go to DeKalb, Illinois, to the ULF conference there. And that was the first conference we went to. After not knowing anybody with the disease, we walked into a Best Western that was completely filled with ULF people. I mean, they took over the entire hotel. And every night they would have a room this size that was an ice cream social. And at every table, there were doctors that had surgeon hat things so you could tell who the doctors were. And then us that could sit with them. And they were from everywhere. They were from United States, all different countries, Amsterdam, Germany, all over the place. And you could talk to them. So the first night we sat at a table and had ice cream and talked. And I didn't listen as good as I should have, because the very next day there was a team of doctors, a husband and wife, that were UCLA research doctors. And the lady was awarded a gene at the conference, or an award at the conference the next day for being the doctor that discovered the gene that causes leukodystrophy. I mean, I didn't listen hard enough to that lady. I mean, obviously, it was amazing. It was truly amazing. So for us, I'd have to say that being able to listen, and you don't always listen to doctors telling you all about research. Sometimes it's listening to the people that you don't know that are starting the same journey and thinking back where you were there and what you could say. Maybe there's nothing you could say. Maybe it's just to listen. Maybe it's to remotely hold a hand, that you can do is just listen.
Yeah. Thank you, Roger. There's that difference between listening and really hearing what somebody's trying to say, maybe between the lines that you talk about. Margaret, I want to ask you, you talked a little bit about how I was really impressed or touched by your opening remarks, because you talked about this long journey, that you talked about how it affected your life. Now that you've been part of the ambassador program for a year, how has it enriched your life?
Well, I would have to say one of the key experiences for me is facilitating the caregiver session. Of course, Roger helps me with those. But I've had the privilege of connecting with other families and caregivers that are basically in the same journey as we are. We do a lot of listening on those sessions, a lot of sharing. It's a private, safe space for all of us to open up and talk about what our life looks like. The raw, the ugly, the good, the bad, as I always tell them when I'm introducing the sessions. I don't know, it's just the caregiver sessions, and I think the webinars have really impacted me. You know, and you talk about what we've done, it's actually the community impacting me and making me understand so much more of what other families are going through. So many times when you get a diagnosis, you feel so alone. Yeah. You know, with John and I, we're young adults when he was diagnosed. It seems like our friends, our circle of friends kind of dropped off. And our friends then became everyone with leukodystrophy. So it's a transition that, you know, we didn't do it on purpose, of course, but it just happened that way. And we also have to advocate for those other friends that we have and family to understand exactly what this journey is and how our lives changed and how it's impacting everything. I didn't follow my script, but I'm sorry. I got a little nervous up here. One of the other things I did was a webinar on recreational opportunities. In Ohio, I am a Special Olympics coordinator for our county. So I was able to bring some aspects of recreation in, and my husband as an adult is very active. He was a pilot up until 2015 when he could no longer get into the airplane. We've done various things with other AMN guys, pheasant hunts and shootouts, and I connected with a wonderful family up in Boston and got her boys re-engaged, her adult boys re-engaged in recreation. And I think that really, really, really touched me. So she's here somewhere. I don't think she's in the room, but if you talk to her, she really has a wonderful story to tell about her children.
Yeah. That's great. It's great to know and hear about what you get out of giving to others. It's a really important part of the story. So Misty, I actually met you before, so I love that I get to spend some time allowing other people to hear your story. And we're going to kind of flip the script here a little bit. You know, the ambassador program is about having one-on-one conversations and listening, like Roger said, to try to understand what that person's needs are and give specific advice. But we're going to have kind of a group session here a little bit. You know, based on your lived experience, what advice can you or do you find yourself most providing individuals and families to help them navigate their journey? What's part of that list usually in your mind at the start?
Well, something that's really close to my heart is, and what I do help a lot of families with, is navigating the school system and IEPs when your child has complex needs. And I would like to give some of you guys some advice today about that, is that you know your child better than anyone. You are your child's expert. So let me share a few things that I've learned along the 18 years of my son's life. First, you're going to document everything in schools. You're going to keep it in writing. It could be in a simple email, write it down on a tablet, app. It doesn't have to be fancy. And second, you're going to prepare for your IEP meetings like you're going to a job interview. You're going to write down questions beforehand. You're going to bring things that do work and that don't work. And don't be afraid to speak out if it's not something that fits for your child. And if you need more time, ask for it. You don't have to sign anything at that moment. You can pause it and reconvene. Third, build relationships. This one's really, really important. Yes, it's important to know your rights, your child's rights, special needs rights, but it's equally important to approach the school team as equal members. Be clear, be firm, but also be idealistic. Fourth, push for individualization. I see this a lot. They just pull a template out and they try to put your kid into that. IEPs are not meant to be, templates. They're meant to be tailored to your child's needs. So ask for things that your child truly needs. And finally, remember this: your child deserves more than just services. They deserve joy. They deserve connection, inclusion, not to just be seen for their diagnosis, but for who they are. And that's something worth fighting for. And I know this journey is hard. I won't sugarcoat it. It's very difficult. And I also want you to know that you're not alone. There's a whole community of us, parents, advocates, friends, who are walking this path with you. And when you feel lost and overwhelmed, you don't have to have all the answers. Just reach out to us, and you just have to keep going. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Misty, and thank you for all the work you do to educate people on that really important topic. Jamie, also I had a chance to meet you, and I remember sitting down at lunch with you last year, and you had me just in tears. I mean, you the way you share your story and your personal journey is really impactful, so thank you for being here. I think one of the things we didn't talk about with Marla's opening was that it's not like you all are making this up as you go. You're actually getting some really great professional support. So would you talk a little bit about the family support training that you're undergoing? I know you have a session tomorrow coming up, and maybe talk about one or two things that you've learned from the program that will help you serve patients and families.
As you know, my son had a very rough last part of his life. While caring for my son and his dynamic caregiving needs, it left me feeling exhausted, tired, frustrated, angry, and overwhelmed, like I couldn't keep going on and on and on with this. My feelings made me question whether my love and care were enough. I also felt embarrassed to let anybody know how I was feeling, because I was afraid they would think I was ungrateful and selfish. During one of the family support meetings that we do education. The word that came out and really struck me hard was caregiver burnout. I didn't know it had a name. I didn't know what the symptoms were. I didn't know any of that because I was embarrassed to ask for help. But the caregiver burnout hit me like a Mack truck. It was like, finally, I have a name for all this that I went through, and it's normal. And now I feel I could help the other parents that are on caregiver burnout. I can recognize it and help you through it. So thanks, my other people up here that are ambassadors. They helped me walk through after that. It was amazing.
Yeah. Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate you sharing that. It's a really important topic and something we probably should all talk about more. And it's great to have the ambassador program now as a resource to help caregivers work through that moment and find a path forward through the darkness. Ron, quality of life. Why is it important to talk to people about quality of life and teach them about the importance about talking about it to others?
I think it's really, really important. I mean, there's no doubt these diagnoses are profoundly challenging. Your caregiving can be a full-time, of course, unpaid job on top of all the other things that we all have going on in our life. Sometimes taking care of our parents. other kids that are unaffected, spouses, careers, relationships. It can seem kind of overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. And I think the key to quality of life is doing something that I think a lot of us, myself included, are lousy at, which is accepting help and getting respite. And in doing so, I think it makes you a better caregiver and gives you a happier, more balanced life. And I can honestly say, I think all five of us are happy. We have good qualities of life, despite the challenges we have. And as I said, it's the key is to accepting help. I mean, no one cares for your loved one probably as well as you do. And you've mastered certain tasks that it can be really uncomfortable to trust to others, whether that be administering medications, tube feeding, positional changes, physiotherapy. But the key is, it's not rocket science, right? These things can be taught, whether it be to a friend, a family member, a personal support worker. We learn these things, and none of us were born with these sort of qualities. Most of us do not have that in our educational training, and they can be taught. And in doing so, it's going to allow you to get away and to do things that restore you, make you a better caregiver. It's going to be better for the person you're giving care to, because being talked to by the same four people day after day after day can be incredibly boring for them. So I think being exposed to others can be good for them. And I think, probably most importantly, I don't think we think about this, you're doing a kindness to someone else. I don't think there's much more meaningful in life than being trusted to care for someone else with love. I think that can have a real impact. So I really encourage people, because we do probably hear from it when people say, hey, how can I help? And I think we constantly go, hey, I've got it. He or she is my responsibility. I'll take this on. Is to actually say yes, let them in. You'll be doing yourself a favor and them.
Yeah, that's great advice with a long period of experience there that you've had a chance to reflect and build that into your own lives. So as you saw in Marla's presentation, the program's grown and has a whole bunch of need in the community, and I think the ambassadors want more needs, so they're inviting you in to utilize them as resources. So with that growing in need, the program's actually grown in the last year. So LuAnn, we know that you're a new ambassador. Why is it important for you to help others? What drew you in to take on this responsibility and join this program?
Hello?
I don't think you don't have to hit anything. He'll turn you on.
Hi. Is that it?
Yep.
Okay. Me and technology is one of my challenges. Well, comes along with this. I need challenges. When my son died in 2024 from ALD, and it was a hard battle, and we worked for years, I got some time back. And I realized that I need to keep fighting. I can't stop. I spent all this time learning everything I could learn and being encouraged by this community. And it's time to give back. Except it's really going to give it back to me, because my system won't feel right unless I can continue striving somehow to be of some kind of help. And whether that's listening to somebody or asking them a question. I'm a long-time college teacher, and I would sometimes have rooms full of people like this, and nobody was going to talk. So sometimes you have to come up with a question that will get people thinking. And what do you need? What is giving you the most problem right now? And not that I can fix everything, but I sure can help them find things out.
Yeah.
And it's, in a lot of ways, easier for me now because I'm not right in the middle of my own crisis. Yeah. And I want to be the person that you can come to and you can lean on me because, yeah, I've been there and I needed that then. So we're not alone, even though sometimes we feel like it, but hopefully I can be a person in your life that gets it, okay? You don't have to explain some of the most basic things in the world, but also we can work on finding answers and articulating the right questions.
Yeah. it's interesting listening to you talk. It popped in my head. A lot of what I think I'm hearing you all do in your work is trying to help others accept that being curious is a good thing. And not everybody's going to have the answers, but that's not a reason to not ask the question, that showing curiosity and continuously being engaged, seeking information is important. And it sounds like that's a big part of the space that you create in your work. Michele, we haven't talked to you yet, and you get, I think, probably a really hard question. And you're also a new ambassador as the program's grown. We've heard everybody talk about the lived experience that you've had with family members with leukodystrophy, which is a word I did not know how to say a few years ago. It's a very demanding disease. So how do you balance? How have you found strategies to balance what you're going through in your own family and the needs of this role in serving as an ambassador?
I mean, I think it's a really good question, and I'm going to go off script too. But, I'll just start out by saying we didn't plan for this. None of us on this stage were planning for our lives to be the way it is. But each one of us took it as an opportunity and embraced it. And we're living with it, and it's part of our lives. So I'm very, very motivated, and I'm extraordinarily driven. And my sister said to me earlier today, you move too fast, you gotta slow down. You gotta take care of yourself. And I'm like, okay, but if I slow down, I'm just gonna stop, and then I'm gonna fall asleep. But to answer your question, I think I'm learning a lot as I'm doing this, honestly. I'm very motivated to get action and get results. But sometimes I need to slow down and think about the emotional aspect of this. And I think that would not only benefit me, but I think it would be great in this role in terms of giving back and listening to people. And I think that's a key factor here is listening, not always just finding answers, but listening because people need an ear. How do I balance it? I've just got a lot of great help. I have a great work situation in my regular day job. They've given me a lot of flexibility. And this is what I'm doing, and this is my lot in life. And no matter what happens, this is where I'll be. And frankly, will be my future when I retire from my regular day job. So I'm committed no matter where I go. And just always keep in mind to take some time to yourself and give yourself some time back. And I think that's critical, important.
Yeah, thank you. We can go to audience questions, I think, if there are any, but I have a question a little bit kind of off script that I'd love to just ask the group. If anybody in the audience wants to approach a microphone with a question, we'll ask it, please do. But, you can't really predict, ambassadors, for what you're going to receive on the other end of the phone call. You kind of have a good idea this person's in need, and you need to take the call. You volunteered. Sometimes random things come up that maybe you didn't expect. So I'm curious, how can any of you talk to an example where a topic came up in a conversation with somebody that you didn't expect, and you had to take a moment, a pause to kind of think about it, and where you went for support if it was on a topic that you weren't able to help on at that moment? Where do you go for help? Do you lean on each other to get those questions answered? Can we think of a situation you've been in where you've had to say, hold on, I got to get back to you? Because I think there's this idea that you're going to get on the phone and you're prepared to answer every question that person has, and that's not reality. So walk us through a little bit about that. Like, how do you kind of develop that relationship?
I can kind of give you two examples for that. The first one would be, and of course, John's not here, but randomly I will get text messages off of the WhatsApp because that's an easy way for someone to contact me if they're out of the U.S., basically. And we happen to be the one, of course, John's an adult with AMN, that get the sexual questions. So we'll have young men that call, they'll start the message with me, and then right away, wait a minute, are you a lady? So I'm like, just a second, would you like to talk to my husband? So I can usually connect them up with John, and they do a little chit-chatting, and then maybe 2 days later, I'll get the same text message. Hey, your husband said that you had good information. So then I'm giving them urology doctors and some other aspects of go to a doctor first to explore some of the things that you talked about, but you need to have someone following you when you're trying different things to help yourself. And I think the other example, I also have a daytime job. I'm in law enforcement, so last week I noticed text messages going back and forth on the WhatsApp, and I think a lot of us were in on it. So a question came up, and all of a sudden, ding, 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 so many of us we had input. So it's not just a phone call. It's like, oh, here, try this, or here, try this. There's a lot of brainstorming behind it, and facilitating how we can connect them up with a doctor or a financial need or something like that. So, and I think you were the one that started the message, right?
Yeah, I would say using the resources amongst us. Right? I think that is key, is all of us instant messaging each other and providing answers that we can. And if we don't have an answer, then we'll tell that person, we will research it and we will get back to you. And ChatGPT is really good too, but you have to verify it.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I want to ask another question, and then I'll come to the audience. You all have been in this program now, or most of you, for about a year. So I guess like in the Wayback Machine, if this program existed, and I'm looking at you, Ron, because you're there, in the ambassador, there was an ambassador on the other end of the phone. Do you think that you would have reached out and used that resource? What would have been done?
I should have. I'd have been terrible. No, I'm horrible at asking for help, but I absolutely would have. I think that's when we first designed that program. I think the collective, a lot of us thought, what would have really helped when my spouse child was first diagnosed? Because you go and you see neurologists who don't know anything about leukodystrophy. I remember one told us famously, they're fairly benign. Don't worry about it. It was like, okay. And we didn't know. We didn't realize that not all physiotherapists know neurodegenerative disorders, right? Physiotherapists are used to dealing with bad knees and bad hips, and the treatment that our spouses or kids need frequently are very different therapy regimens, et cetera. So I'd always wished that I could have saved hundreds of miles of driving and, probably cumulatively months of my life waiting for appointments that were going to be fruitless. And so it's great. I thought I would love to have had a friend who had a Rolodex who could say out and say, hey, who's worthwhile seeing within a 2-hour drive to help with this? Or, like getting a car renovated. It's really expensive, and I can't. Are there beyond my local church or whatever? What are some of the other sources of funding that are out there, and how do I access them? So I've always sort of thought it was just someone with learned, lived experience that can help you through the challenge that we had to solve on our own collectively, and many of you have to solve on your own. Instead, it's someone who has some experience that can help.
Yeah, Misty?
I'm quite opposite. I would have definitely utilized something like that. My son was unknown type of leukodystrophy for 16 years, so I had no clue. I had no doctor to like a type of doctor to go to, and it would have. I just really needed the mental support too. I fell into like deep depression, because your normal doctors don't know what you're supposed to do. So I would have rather had someone help guide me, saying, no, you need to go to the doctor and get help for that, or you need to talk to people or counselors, or so I definitely would have utilized the program.
Cool. Ma'am.
Hi. So first, thanks you guys for volunteering and helping all of us. Sort of a two-part question. Do you guys share information among yourselves, like if you find this or that or things that are helpful, and how do you do that? And then the second part of that is sort of extending that to us. And so have we thought about sort of a data or a knowledge repository, like a community page on ULF, so that for people who may not feel like, hey, I want to ring you up for whatever reason, right? Maybe there's a board or something on the ULF page that, these are helpful hints, a checklist of think about these resources, or on the East Coast, I found these things, or doctors, or just sort of a knowledge repository. And thanks.
Thank you for those two questions. For the first question, absolutely, we do share the information that we get asked. We have monthly ambassador meetings, and in those monthly meetings, we have discussions as to what has been requested in that month. And as we alluded to just a little bit ago, if there's something that we didn't quite know exactly how to help out an individual, we have a chat group that we ask each other, because we don't want to presume that if I get asked a question that I have to know it all, right? So we rely on each other as well. And though we might have been asked the question, we're all living it as we speak too. So maybe we don't have the time to do it, but somebody else can step in. Yeah. So yes, we do have, and we also document, like anything else in this world, we document the resources that we are requested and how many times that we, had a interaction with that person. Did we resolve that request? And how did we resolve it? So we do have documentation. So I hope that answers your first question. For the second question about putting it up on the website, that would be a really fabulous idea. We can look into that. A lot of things might be easy to set up because you're right, not everybody is comfortable asking for help, right? They might prefer to just go search for the help on the internet themselves. So that might be something that we would consider. The thing we might have to really, that might stop us is if we're putting a name of somebody, we need to ask their permission, right? May I put you as a resource on our website? So maybe questions that can be asked, those sorts of things, absolutely. But I think we might have to look further into, can we put names and numbers?
Yeah. And the other challenge with the second part, of course, is as soon as you put a list out there, it's outdated, right? You can say, hey, there's a great neurologist in ... Texas. And 2 weeks later, they relocate to whatever. So I think it's a worthwhile thing, but it's really hard, especially when you're dealing with such a wide area, to keep a list that's current. Because sources of funding, neurologists, physiotherapists retire, new ones come on board, et cetera. But it's not a horrible idea, it's just really challenging to do it in practicality. And the other thing I want to encourage is that when we do talk about it, your privacy is protected. I don't need to know your name or the name of your child or your spouse in order to help you. Like the person who reaches out will often say, I've got somebody in blank, Tennessee, here's the challenge. And so we do make sure that your privacy, it's not my right to know that you've reached out to Jamie or Misty, and so we do protect that as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, with that, we've come to the just about top of the hour, and that means we're between you and lunch, and I believe lunch is down in the main lobby there. I guess I would just say, again, thank you all for the work you've done in the first year of the Ambassador program. I think the entire community hopes that the program continues to grow and thrive, and we look forward to hearing an update next year. So thank you all.
And I want to thank Ionis for sponsoring and seeing the value of this Ambassador program, right? Thank you.